made my second mistake ever in my career, and that's a joke because I made many. And I call this a trends presentation. And a trend to me is something that comes and goes. Maybe it cycles back in a couple of years, like bell-bottom jeans, those are back. But these I think are really evergreen. I've used them the past 10 years and they're still working, and I think they're gonna work over the next 10 years at least. So the first trend that I'd like to share is show, don't tell, or sell. So it's all about using data to dominate media conversations. And in my past life, my central role was to get us coverage in really big media outlets, which, as most of you know, is really hard to do. I don't have a sexy product. I don't have a sexy service. I'm not Apple. I'm not Uber. I'm not any of these things. But that's not true. So psychologically speaking, visual data makes it easy to learn and remember things. Do we all agree with this? Yes? I hope. So let's do this really quickly. Take a look at this screen. There's a lot of words. Oh my God, what is this? What did you remember from that quick 5 or 7 seconds? Did anyone remember anything?
900,000.
That's it. You saw a big number. You saw kids.
2.3 million.
You saw another big number.
Question mark.
You saw a question mark. What does this mean? Take a look at this. 5, 4, 3, 2. What did you remember?
2.3 million kids are going to buy cars.
Oh no. Oh no. Jesus, no. You saw 2.3 million. You saw the number about brake jobs. What else did we see?
12 billion miles.
Exactly. This is really, really important. And it's more important more than ever now to media. And when I say media, I'm saying from the Babcockses and the trade media that are in the room to your mainstream media, like your New York Times, your Washington Post, your Wall Street Journal. Who here knows who Edelman is? Okay, so Edelman is a worldwide PR agency, and they publish something every year called the Trust Barometer. It's really fascinating. I highly recommend that you read it. And what it basically does is it surveys consumers every year on who they trust the most, and they plot the changes year over year. And of course, who consumers trust, or who anyone trusts year over year, is affected by current events, what's going on in the world. One of the things that's really important to note is that news at one point really didn't do well with trusting consumers. So consumers were asked, do you trust the news? Do you trust businesses? Do you trust the government? Do you trust your friends and family? Not surprisingly, friends and family always ranks number 1. Who do you trust for recommendations? Who do you trust when they tell you you should try something, you should go somewhere, you should do something? But news had really been struggling over the past couple of years. And for the first year in a long time, we've seen a massive rise in news engagement. And a lot of this has been from the fall of social media. So social media used to be where we get our news. Social media became a place where news outlets got their news. And then they were publishing stories that weren't verified. They didn't have the right source. They were fake news. But now, in order to start building that trust back up, the news has engaged new tactics. And those tactics all center around data-based storytelling. So if you look on many news stories of today, you'll find that they often have an element that is visual, charts and visualization of the data that's behind the news stories. Because consumers won't read that long article, they'll see a number, they'll remember a quote, they'll see a chart, they'll see any of these things and instantly remember those and reshare that story just from that snippet of data. So you see it on the news stories pages, you see it on social media from people like USA Today and the Washington Post, and we even see it from our friends at Babcock's and IMR. They're publishing data because it makes people remember them much more easily. And at my past job, one of the things that we did for our clients was we tried to help people understand media more. So as PR professionals, you're probably used to sending a pitch to the media saying, hey, here's my product launch, here's my press release, where's my coverage? As we know, it doesn't work that way. So we hosted these roundtable discussions with outlets like Washington Post, New York Times in the city, and we invited clients to say, hey, come hear from the Washington Post exactly from them, how they prefer to receive pitches, how do they prefer to receive news, what makes them publish something, what makes readers tick, what makes them click, what makes them comment. And the senior editor at large of the Washington Post told me that she's completely surprised at how many traditional pitches or press releases she sees in this day and age. And she's really surprised that she doesn't see more charts and visualization, because this was something that the Washington Post and many other news outlets are employing to compete with each other and get the most interesting, pertinent, original data that maybe their competitor didn't have. And she told us that rarely does a source say in a pitch, here's the data. So what reporters were looking for to cover a story to gain the edge and gain the eyeballs was a story that specifically had data, original proprietary data that they couldn't get someplace else. They couldn't just Google it and find it. They were waiting for it to fall into their laps. And this is where you guys come in. And why would you even do this in the first place? Are most people here engaging in media pitching or PR, or work with someone on their team to try to expand the reach of their brand? That's really it. You're there to gain media coverage, so that's publicity and third-party credibility for your business. That drives traffic to your website through those mentions and search. More engagement on social media, because news outlets are highly active on social media. And more reach, to reach all the people that you're trying to reach, to get them to act. So these are my 7 steps to database storytelling, and I'm sure that some of the folks in the room, like Babcock's, IMR, ADM, could also kind of chime in on some of these. But when we started doing this approach, there are a lot of pitfalls to avoid. And the first question that we always got when we were asked by clients, how do we do this, is I don't have data. And that's just simply not true. Everybody here has data, but it's about framing the data in a clever way, anonymizing it if you need to, of course, and getting it out in a way that makes it relevant to the target audiences. So the first thing to do is figure out where you're getting your data. What is the source of your data? Is it from your CRM? Is it from your sales? Is it from a survey of your clients or your partners? Is it from a poll that you do on social media? You can use all of these things to get relevant data. Is the data valid? One of the things that reporters will often ask for when you pitch them a story with data is, what's the methodology you use to collect this data? They don't want to know that you sent out a survey and only 5 people responded. They're going to ask that question. So they're going to want to know, where did you get the data? How credible is it? Is it recent? Is it relevant? And then you need to be able to identify trends in the data. So what does it actually mean? Does it mean that things are going positively? Does it mean that they're going negatively? What does the trend signify? And then what does it mean to that audience? The most important question to answer with data is, what does it mean to the person that's reading it? Why would they care? Competitive sources. So this one can be both a pro and a con. So if you're looking to publish some data, you want to make sure that there's not somebody else that's publishing the exact same data set as you. But maybe there's someone that's publishing something that's very similar to yours, and that could be a partnership opportunity. Maybe there's gaps in your data, and you can partner with someone like a Babcock's, or an IMR. Timeliness. This was something that we found at Cision to really drive media pickup of database storytelling articles and efforts. So March Madness, I guess, just finished up last night. This is crazy because I basically don't watch college basketball or anything, but we did a whole database storytelling approach on March Madness. And what we did was we had a social monitoring software that monitored conversations on social media. And we used social media to monitor those conversations and basically make a bracket predicting, based on social media volume of conversations about teams, who would win March Madness. So it wasn't even real data. It was kind of hypothetical. They were predictions, but based on those brackets, and because we were able to pitch that in the heat of March Madness, that became a really huge story. It got picked up in Variety and the Los Angeles Times. Like, people on Twitter want Duke to win, and people on Facebook actually really prefer Virginia. And it became this whole discussion piece that offered a perspective that those media outlets hadn't quite seen before, which is what made it so interesting. So being timely with the data, so being agile. How to visualize that data. So who here doesn't have a creative team and is doing it on their own? Yeah, or assisting on their own. Okay, pro tip. Anybody use Canva? C-A-N-V-A. If you have a process where it takes a long time to get something created within your creative team, or you need to create something agile on the fly, that's also still branded, it meets your brand guidelines, it has your fonts and your colors and your logos, please look up Canva, C-A-N-V-A. It's a fantastic resource to help you do those things on the fly, either for social, for media, and for all of those quick data visualization things. And then how are you going to disseminate it? You've done all this work to find a data set that tells a really interesting story, and you present it in a beautiful way, but where does it go? So my main way, or my kind of main advice is that data is, we keep hearing the term data is the new oil. Data is so interesting to readers that I think it's best served in a kind of one-on-one media pitch. So you're offering it to someone as an exclusive to get that type of coverage. But if that doesn't work, the best thing about data, especially if you put it into an infographic form, is that you can parse it out into all these little snackable, biteable pieces, so that way that the content lasts longer. So one of the things I heard was trying to fit into the customer journey, or the shotgun approach. And I think many times with marketing efforts, we come up with something really big and we have a launch, and we do all this work and there's this buildup and this momentum, and we launch it. And then what happens after launch? Not much. So instead of simply just sending something out, sharing it out, taking the time to parse out that content over time in those little snackable, biteable pieces will ensure that more audiences see it, and then you'll start to learn which pieces of data and visuals resonate with which audiences. So the technicians may resonate with 158,000 brake jobs, or the heavy-duty people will resonate with the 20.7 billion miles. I'm not sure, but all of those things I can glean by taking those pieces of data and then sharing them out across all of these owned and earned channels. So making sure that you have a holistic dissemination strategy that not only includes your website, but also your blogs if you have them, LinkedIn Pulse posts, which we learned about earlier, super exciting, via press release, to social media on all of your channels. Use those employee social media armies. If you have people in your organization who are willing to share stuff about your brand on social media and be a champion, those are your best front lines for sharing content, because they already have that network in the industry that you're looking to reach. They have those eyeballs. And then make sure you're sharing it with both trade and mainstream media, but also your partners and your customers.